What if everything you thought you knew about Kovu was a lie? For years, fans have debated his origins. Some say he was Scar's heir, chosen to rule in his place. Others believe Zira was his true mother, raising him with blind loyalty to a fallen king. But what if Kovu's story was far more tragic, twisted, and unexpected than anyone ever realized? What if he was never meant to be Scar's successor at all? Because Kovu's real father wasn't Scar. And once you learn who he truly was, you'll never look at the Lion King the same way again. Most believe Kovu's story begins with Zira, that he was handpicked by Scar to continue his legacy, molded into a king of vengeance. But what if that was a lie? What if Kovu wasn't Scar's chosen heir at all? What if he wasn't even Zira's son? There's a truth hidden beneath the sands of the Pride Lands, one that has been overlooked for far too long. Kovu wasn't born into Scar's bloodline. He wasn't destined to rule through a vengeful queen. His story begins with another lion, a lion who once walked among the Pridelanders but was consumed by his own hunger for power. His name was Chumvi. During Scar's rule, the Pridelands were filled with whispers. Fear gripped the kingdom and lions were forced into obedience. Chumvi, once a daring but harmless cub, found himself thriving in the chaos. Scar paid him little attention, but that didn't matter, because Chumvi had his own ambitions. He was betrothed to Kula, a lioness, who, in some accounts, was Scar's own daughter. That meant one thing. One day, he would be king. Maybe not the true ruler, but a king consort close enough to the throne to taste power. And he wanted more. At first, Chumvi played the role of the charming suitor. But as time passed, power got to his head. He started throwing his weight around, demanding respect from the others. He saw the suffering of the kingdom not as a tragedy, but as an opportunity. But Kula, she saw what he was becoming. She despised it. Chumvi's arrogance grew, but when Kula openly rejected his behavior, something inside him snapped. If she wouldn't support him, if Scar's line wouldn't accept him, then he would carve his own legacy. And so he turned to the Outlands. Chumvi knew that to secure his future, he had to act fast. Scar's grip on the Pride Lands was slipping, his rule tainted by famine and fear. The lionesses whispered of rebellion in the shadows, and even Scar's most loyal followers were beginning to doubt. But doubt alone wouldn't be enough to topple a king. Chumvi needed an heir, one untouched by Scar's bloodline, one who could be shaped into the ruler he envisioned. The cub that the forgotten lioness bore was his key to everything. Yet power was never so easily taken. Scar had his own line. Nuka, Vitani, and Kula, the very lioness Chumvi had once been betrothed to. If Scar perished and they remained, the throne could still be passed through his descendants. Chumvi couldn't allow that. So he made a choice, a ruthless, unforgivable choice. He would eliminate Scar's entire bloodline, not just Scar himself, but his cubs, his heirs, any lion or lioness who bore even a trace of his legacy. If he succeeded, his own son, the dark-furred cub with Pridelander strength, would be the only one left to rule. But there was a problem. Zira, fierce, loyal, unbreakable, she would never allow Scar's cubs to be slaughtered. She would fight to her last breath to ensure Scar's lineage survived. If Chumvi wanted to secure his legacy, he had only two choices: strike first or make a deal with the devil. And so, for the second time, he sought out a powerful lioness. Only this time, it wasn't a forgotten outcast. It was Zira herself. Would she accept? Would she betray her own cubs for the promise of a greater future? Chumvi wasn't sure, but he knew one thing. This was his only chance. Chumvi's plan was merciless, crafted in the shadows of Scar's crumbling reign. Every move he made, every step he took, was aimed at securing his legacy. Scar's bloodline had to vanish completely, irreversibly. There could be no survivors. And so, His first target was Kula. She had once been his closest friend, the lioness he was promised to, but now she was an obstacle, a remnant of Scar's influence that needed to be erased. If Kula lived, Scar's legacy could still persist. Chumvi stalked the Pride Lands in secret, waiting for the moment to strike. But fate had other plans. Simba returned. The exiled prince, the lost heir of Mufasa, the lion who had been nothing more than a ghost in the minds of the Pridelanders, he was back. And with his return, Scar's fragile kingdom collapsed like dry bones beneath a predator's paw. The war ignited before Chumvi could make his move. Simba's roar split the sky, lightning struck, setting Pride Rock ablaze. The hyenas turned on Scar, lionesses fought for their freedom, screams and roars blended into the storm as the once mighty king fell from his throne. And Chumvi? He was caught in the eye of the storm. Suddenly, his plan no longer mattered. It was no longer about eliminating Scar's bloodline. It was about survival. The battlefield was chaos. Scar's forces were being crushed. The Outlanders, who had once sworn loyalty to the king, were either slaughtered or driven into exile. The hyenas turned their fangs against those they once served. Chumvi tried to escape, but destiny was closing in. Some say he was trampled in the battle, buried beneath the weight of falling bodies and the crumbling kingdom he had once sought to claim. That he perished alongside the hyenas, his dreams of power crushed beneath the victorious roar of Simba. But others whisper a different tale. That Chumvi fled before the final blow was struck, that he vanished into the deepest reaches of the Outlands, watching from the shadows as the throne he once coveted was taken from his grasp. Either way, his plan was never completed. Scar's cubs lived, Zira survived, and the throne he had schemed for now belonged to Mufasa's rightful heir. But despite his failure, one thing remained: his bloodline. Unbeknownst to Simba, to Zira, and even to the cub himself, Chumvi's son still lived. And when Zira, broken but unyielding, took in the orphaned cub and raised him as Scar's heir, she unknowingly fulfilled Chumvi's greatest ambition. His son, the dark-furred lion with the strength of the Pridelanders, would grow up believing himself to be Scar's chosen successor. He would be trained in hatred, molded for revenge, destined to one day challenge Simba himself, and Chumvi, wherever he was, dead or alive, had won in the end. Kovu grew up under the weight of a name that was never his. From the moment he could walk, Zira whispered into his ears, calling him Scar's chosen heir. She drilled it into his mind, shaping him into the perfect tool of vengeance. Every pounce, every claw swipe, every word of hatred she poured into him was meant to turn him into the king Scar had never been. And Kovu, just a cub yearning for purpose, believed it. He fought harder, trained longer, and tried with every fiber of his being to become what Zira wanted him to be. Yet deep inside, something always felt wrong. The Outlands were his home, but they never felt like home. The Outlanders were his family, yet they never felt like kin. And Scar, the lion he was meant to worship, the lion whose blood was supposedly in his veins, looked nothing like him. Kovu was different. At first, he dismissed it. Maybe he was just special, destined to carry on Scar's will in a way no one else could. But as he grew, that doubt never fully faded. The older he got, the more he began to notice the small things. His body was stronger, sturdier, built like a Pridelander. His claws didn't extend fully, an uncommon trait among the Outlanders. His instincts didn't align with the ones Zira tried so hard to instill in him. But it wasn't just physical. Something inside him, something deep within his soul, rejected the hatred Zira nurtured. While she raged about Simba's tyranny, Kovu found himself curious instead of furious. While she preached about avenging Scar, he couldn't help but wonder if revenge was really what he wanted. But he couldn't question it. Zira's approval was everything. His entire identity, his entire purpose revolved around fulfilling the destiny she had chosen for him. And so Kovu buried the doubt. He trained harder. He suppressed the voice inside him that told him something was wrong. He clawed and fought, trying to drown himself in the identity Zira had forced upon him. But the truth never stays buried forever. His father had never been Scar. His true bloodline did not belong to the Outlanders. He was the son of Chumvi, a lion who had once walked beneath the golden light of Mufasa's kingdom. A lion who had allowed ambition to consume him, who had sought power so desperately that he had unknowingly sealed his own fate. Kovu was the product of that ambition, and Chumvi's dream had come true in the cruelest, most ironic way imaginable. His son had become the heir to the Outlanders. His son had been raised to take the throne. But there was one thing Chumvi never expected. Kovu would reject that destiny. The cub raised in hatred would choose love instead. The lion meant to be Scar's successor would become Simba's ally, and the heir meant to bring vengeance upon the Pride Lands would instead heal them. Kovu would return to his true home, not as a conqueror, but as a peacemaker. And in doing so, he would undo everything Chumvi had ever dreamed of. And he would never even know it. Kovu's real father was never Scar. His true lineage had nothing to do with Zira's blind devotion. Instead, he was the last remnant of a forgotten ambition. The heir to a lion who tried to change fate but lost to the weight of his own arrogance. Chumvu's legacy was erased from history, but Kovu lived on, and through him the future of the Pride Lands changed forever. So what do you think? Does this theory change the way you see Kovu? Could Chumvi have been his real father all along? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you love deep Lion King stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a new video. And tell us, what Lion King mystery should we explore next? Let us know below.